How's it going now, guys? TalkNorwichCity here, back for another video. And what a chaotic day it has been for Norwich City. 3 signings through the door. I don't think we were all expecting that, were we? Well, maybe we were actually going into this morning. Michael Bailey and Paddy Davitt had kind of wrapped up the exclusives quite well in terms of we knew players were going to be coming in, but I didn't expect them all to be coming in on the same day. And as well as that, we've also rejected a bid for Marley Watkins, which seems very surprising. Probably more surprising than making 3 signings in one day. Anyway, let's get to the good news first of all, and that is these 3 signings. Well, first of all, who are these 3 players? What can we expect from these players? And what does it prove about the current system at Norwich City? Well, the day started off, we signed Onal Hernandez. This is a 24-year-old player, 5'8". He's a winger, coming in from Germany. He's Cuban, born in Cuba, moved to Germany. Don't think there's many Cuban Germans out there, as you will. And this is a winger who can play as a winger, as wingers probably are expected to do, and also in behind off the striker. Now with Hernandez, Sabreni, and also Leitner, I've never watched any of the players. I would be lying if I've told you I've watched them. I've watched some YouTube compilations, but Ricky Van Wolfswinkel looked good on a YouTube compilation, so I'm not going to buy too much into that. So certainly don't read into what I'm saying about these. Go and look for your Dan O'Hagans, your Johnny Walshes, your Nick Masheters if you want something a little bit more concrete on what you can expect from these players. But I've listened to them, I've heard them, so this is what I'm guessing. Hernandez, quick winger, about 1.4 million I think we paid for him, can play off the shoulder as a striker, and adds a few more options going forwards. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Yannick Wilschke in terms of the way he's built, in terms of his directness, but I suppose Hernandez is probably on a third of the wage to what Wilschke was, and he's also a fairly cheap addition. We then move on to Dennis Sabreni, which I don't think is the correct pronunciation. I know Rob Butler's been tweeting out the pronunciations. Let me have a look of how you pronounce Sabreni or Sabreni. So Rob Butler's saying Dennis Sabreni. However, we did get tweeted earlier on the Talk Norwich City account the best chant ever to the tune of Let It Be. Now my internet isn't going to load. Here we go. So Dennis Sabreni. But let's not kind of go along with the pronunciation too much. Let's not let the facts get in the way of a good chant here. So shout out to George Wilbraham, who's gone for scoring goals. We found a problem, so we went to Germany. There we found the answer. Sabreni. I love that. Scoring goals, we found a problem, so we went to Germany. There we found the answer. Sabreni. Anyway, this is a man who's 23 years old. He's 6'3". He's a striker. He scored 9 goals in 15 games this season. And he seems like a bit of a target man. A man who will happily play with his back to goal, hold the ball up, and bring other players into play. And that's exactly the kind of striker we've needed, isn't it? You're crying out for Nelson Oliveira to just hold the ball up at times. Sabreni, Dennis, I'm going to call him, Big D. He can do that quite well. And then probably the most exciting signing came later on today, Moritz Leitner. Now this is a man who was capped 24 times at under-21 level for Germany. He's won the Bundesliga. He's been in the Champions League final, and he's coming from a Bundesliga team. Now Leitner is a very similar story to Tom Tribal. His career started incredibly well, incredibly promising, won the Bundesliga, was capped multiple times for the under-21s at Germany. And then over the past couple of years, he's struggled both in terms of playing time and his performance levels. Now, Daniel Farke coached him at Borussia Dortmund under-23s. He clearly knows Leitner very well, and he obviously feels like he can get the best out of Leitner. Now, I must admit, I haven't watched much of Moritz Leitner, but Dan O'Hagan is very excited. A lot of the German guys I follow, Dan O'Hagan isn't German, but he knows his German football inside out, are very excited about Leitner. However, it all depends if we get the best out of him, if we get the Moritz Leitner of 2 years ago, if he's willing to knuckle down. Well, if Daniel Farke thinks he can do that, then fair enough. Let him have a go. But, in terms of the actual players we've got in, Dennis Sobrani's coming in from the third tier of German football. Hernandez is coming in from the second tier. Yes, Moritz Leitner's coming in from the Bundesliga. These are still, you know, second, third tier German footballers. I would be deluded to sit here and say that these are going to be absolute miracle workers and we're going to be pushing for the playoffs come to the end of the season. Hernandez could flop, Sobrani could flop, Leitner could be, you know, a man with a very poor attitude and a story of what could have been. But I'm really pleased in the direction in which our recruitment policy is going down. And the actual signings that we thought might work in terms of the Marley Watkins, the James Husbands, have been the players that haven't worked. These players from lower tiers of English football, or actually in the same tier of English football as us. Husband hasn't worked, Watkins hasn't worked. They haven't, yes, been given the chance, but they're fairly average footballers. If we can get the best out of these players, your Hernandez's, your Sobranis and your Leitners, as well as bedding in, you know, your Marcus Edwardses of the world, then you've actually had a really good January transfer window. Now, it's interesting as well, isn't it? Because, you know, I was speaking to some guys in the office today and we were saying, well, would it be good to go in for a Jack Marriott type player, a proven League One goal scorer, get someone who's hungry from the lower leagues of England? Well, yes, that would be fantastic. But these types of players are being linked with £7 million moves. If the good players in League One are costing you £7 million and an average player in the Championship is costing you £6 million, £7 million, then it's just not worth the risk, because that's a big outlay for a player who might not actually perform that well in the Championship. Norwich are trying to go down a route in which it's clearly suiting Farke's philosophy. It's clearly suiting Stuart Webber's philosophy. Let's take these low-risk punts and hope they work. And if they do, then we have a great couple of seasons with them and maybe sell them on for profit. Now, I'm also 99% sure that 1 in 4 of these signings are going to be a complete flop, because that's the nature of it. It's probably going to be 1 in 4 players can't make the step up, or can't adapt to the Championship, or don't get on with Daniel Farke, or can't adapt to the way we're trying to play football. And I'm kind of okay with that, because these are low-risk signings that can hopefully have a very high reward. So that's that. 3 signings in today. Let me know your thoughts on it. I think you're completely justified to be incredibly excited about this, and you're also completely justified, and I sympathise with your point if you think these are fairly low-key and not very exciting signings. But I'm quite excited to see if, you know, your Onel Hernandez can be the next big thing. I can get excited with that, and I can kind of buy into this ethos that we're trying to go down. And if you're not willing to get on board with it, fine, but it's going to be a very dull 4-5 years, or however long Daniel Farke is here, because this is the way we're going down. Your German third division players, and hopefully you hire German players that fit into this model. And I've said it multiple times on videos this season, but it's finding players to fit into a system rather than creating your system around 1 or 2 players. And I think that's quite an exciting proposition. So that's that. 3 players today: Hernandez, Leitner and Sobrani, Big D as we'll call him. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.